Hello, everybody. I'm going to start up a series today for learning how to work into Visual Studios. I started out learning Visual Basic, and I want to begin to learn how to work with video games and how to create stuff. So I'm going to start assigning a little project to myself and start coding them up. And I figured I'd post them to YouTube because what better way to learn than from people who are on the internet and do this kind of thing. So as I'm doing things, if you want to follow along, that's great. I'm not following any specific items. Um, I kind of just do what I feel is correct, and we'll see where it goes. If I get stuck, I'll look something up. But let's get started, I guess. We're going to do a new project with the WPF application, and I'm going to do a game that I remember from a long time ago that was DOS. And in the DOS game, it was called Nibbles. So the point in it is you have your little snake that you drive around the game screen, and you eat more pieces of food, and the more you eat, the longer it grows. And it's just a grid-based game. It's something that I believe is very simple, so we're going to start working with it. One of the easiest methods is grid-based, and you can use the user interface to create grids, or you can also use the XAML code down here. I find the XAML easier to use for most things, but we're gonna want to make some column definitions. There we go. The code down here does a lot of things for you, and it makes things a lot easier once you get used to them. I'm still learning it, but um, we want a grid. Oop, no. Column definition. You know what? I can't remember what it is, so let's just click something. Let's make one of those. There we go. So inside of our column definitions, now we have two grids, or two columns. It splits it based off where you put it. You can see 161 and 356. The asterisk means it will grow. They will keep their relationship in their sizes, so they will continually expand and shrink based off of the form. So I want to use that so that this form can be increased and decreased drastically. And I'm going to make about 20 different columns. So that's going to be the area that you'd be able to work through in the game. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10. So now we have 20 columns, each 5 points. If you don't know XAML, everything is supposed to start with your asterisk. And so this denotes the grid. And anything inside the grid will come in inside of it, and it will end with /grid. So this entire section is going to define our grid that's going to be on our form. And same thing with column definitions. All of the column definitions fit inside of this section. And then I'll have each independent one here. So we've got our column definitions, but now we want our row definitions. And our row definition is going to be the same thing, except instead of worrying about width, we're only going to worry about height. And we're going to do the same thing with 5. I'm going to close off our line right there. That slash shuts off the line as well. You could put this on a separate row, kind of like these are, where there are 2 rows, but there's no point in this. It's such small information that it's better just to keep it by itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 10, 15, 20. Okay, so now we've got a nice little 20 by 20 grid up here that we're going to start working with. Now, like I said, you do all this, there is also the user interface. You can come up here and grab them and change what you need to change. Add new ones in and lock them in place. But this is going to expand as it is. Now, we're still going to be on this main window, but we're not going to be altering the grid. So we're going to have a starting point. Oh, there we go. So we're going to start with a rectangle. How's it going to let us? Oh, one of the things I like to do, obviously since I'm learning, is to use the user interface. So I've got all of my items set over here on the left. So if I just click on Toolbox, we'll get our items up, and then we can find anything we need. And I'm going to start with a rectangle. So if we look for it, actually if we select it, it'll bring us to the line. So now this is all of the information that the user interface automatically puts in. And I don't understand its order or its logic for anything like that. So column span is if you want something to take over multiple columns. So if we change it to 1, you can kind of see he's highlighted over here. But the 5 is just because of his full size. So I don't really care about that. It doesn't really matter at the moment. So we can just take that out. Now the grid column starts with 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can see this is the 7th column that it starts in. And that's fine for now. It doesn't really matter. We're going to change the fill in a little bit, so we won't worry about that. Horizontal alignment, we'll do stretch, just so it fills up the entire column for where it's at. Height is going to be auto. Margin we're going to take out. Now the grid row. 9's fine. Row span, it's only going to end up being a 1. Stroke we'll take out. Vertical alignment will be stretch. And width will be auto as well. So now, like I said, fill is what we're going to want to change. Personally, I don't remember these numbers ever, so we'll use the property box to change the fill. And that's inside the brush. So there's the fill brush right here. Let's start with making this guy solid blue. So it's solid color brush. And it prints out the number here. It's also down here. So now let's see if we hit start, just kind of take a look at it. We've got our little box here, but it's gray. So it doesn't match what we're wanting to do anyways. So let's come back into our properties. Let's see why. Because he's over there. We want it over here. So now let's start it up. Well, we've got a blue box. And the box gets bigger when we maximize the screen, and we'll get smaller when we shrink it. So it's really nice that it will stretch like that, and it will always stay with the same rows. So now, with this, like I said, everything was set to 5 as the smallest, but the star allows it to shrink. The reason this looks like a rectangle and not a square is because the window is wider. So that's something we can come take care of up here. Our height's 350, which is nice. So we'll change our height here to width to be 350. So now it's actually a perfect square. And that's only going to be what it starts out with. So if you expand it, it still turns into a rectangle. But we've got just a solid square right there. So that's nice. Let's see. If you notice up here it says main window, we can change that right here. We'll change it to Nibbles. And you can see it reflected up here. Let's get off of that. Select up here. So now it just says Nibbles. So that's really all I'm going to put in for the form, because the white background is fine. And this is going to be the main game screen of the form. So what we're going to need to do here is actually add in a class. The class would be based on our snake, which is going to start off at a single piece. So we'll come to the Solution Explorer, and we will add class. You can use Shift-Alt-C as well, but yeah, the mouse is easier for me. Now this class is going to be snake part, because this is going to be what controls our snake and what attributes and everything that it has and what we need to do with it. So with this little guy, one of the main things we're going to want is to be able to affect our rectangle. like I said, we have this is everything that the user interface decided it wanted to put in for the code, but it doesn't put in everything because you didn't define it. One of the things it doesn't do is name. So we're gonna name this Snake One, or we're gonna name it Snakehead, and we'll put a little prefix on it. So this is the rectangle snakehead. So we can affect this since we know the name. So when we come out to snakepart.cs, which is our class, now our snake part is also going to have a location. So and it's going to be using X and Y coordinates. So let's default it to 1, 1. That's going to be our starting point. So we're going to have those as, and let's make them public so that we can affect them from other classes or modules if we need to, or any other methods as well. So we're going to have x equals 1, y equals 1. I don't know why it does the spacing sometimes. Sometimes it spaces them out, sometimes it doesn't. But, so we're going to have that inside the class snake. Then we're going to have the private location method. So it doesn't like, must have a return type. What are we going to need? We are going to need a pair of items. So having the pair of items does not like something. Not all code returns. So we'll put that in there just to make it happy. It always wants to have a return because this is what's going to come out of the method. Now, the problem with this as is that it can only return one item like this. So we're going to have to actually figure out how to return multiple items. And this is one that, if I remember correctly, is something different than whatever I've ever used. I was thinking a dictionary might be the way to go, but I don't know. This is one of those items where there's always a way around it, but it's not always the best. So I always look up to see what we can get. And I think a dictionary is right. So our dictionary is going to be not string. It's going to be int. So pair of integers. Something's off with that. I'll have to look into how to return an item. Public void add. Because we want to return XY. So, yep. Let me take a look at this one and we'll see what we can go. We've already got our form done, so we've got a decent amount of work. At least our main form. And it'll open up and it'll string around like we need to. So I'm going to look up how I want to handle this piece and how best to return two codes, because really for the location I need it to come back with both the row and the column, so the X and Y coordinates. Once I get that figured out, we will start up the next episode. So thank you all for watching. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. I'm just learning C#, XAML, and Visual Studios altogether, so I can use any help you are willing to offer. Bye.